Welcome back to Student Exposure. In this next segment, we'll take an inside look at the history and techniques of a Brazilian martial art that combines elements of dance and music. Universal Capoeira Angola Center in Washington, D.C. gave us exclusive access into the world of capoeira in the district.
My name is Jesse Winston, here at the Universal Capoeira Angola Center in Washington, D.C., and I'm a student and a bit of a teacher too. Capoeira Angola is many things at the same time. Some people describe it as a martial art, some describe it as a cultural activity, a type of meditation, a healing art. It's dance, it's liberation in active form. Many people tell different stories, and I don't think you'll find the same answer from anyone. Some people argue that it started in Brazil. A lot of people say that it came from Africa. And from what I've studied, I see that it comes from Africa also. But in its early form, it was a combination of cultural elements based upon where people lived and how they lived. But when they came to Brazil, they had to see the overlap in their cultural characteristics and ended up sharing them, which created capoeira as we know it. The Jenga is the foundation of the capoeira movement. It's basically known as a side-to-side, back-and-forth step, but it could be many other things. Sometimes it might not even be that basic step, but it's used to move from one movement to the next. It's used to hide intentions. It's used to confuse your opponent. It exists in a way where in normal martial arts traditions in the Western world, you imagine someone having a fighting stance. They might hold that stance and look for a position, but with the Jenga, we're always moving. We're not sitting still to be seen.
Hi, I'm Clarice. I am a student teacher here at the Universal Capoeira Angola Center in Washington, D.C. As a martial art, Capoeira Angola is a lot more, it's a lot more African culture incorporated into it. It's definitely not the same as other martial arts that people know about, like karate or taekwondo or jiu-jitsu. Capoeira Angola is very different, especially when you see Capoeira Angola. It's a lot of dance in it. The dance is used to disguise the martial part in Capoeira Angola, and you just have to see it for yourself. It's very interesting.
Why I decided to study capoeira? When I first encountered it, it was just dumb luck. I had moved away for graduate school and happened to move just 3 blocks away from a guy who was teaching it, and he was a student of one of our great grandmasters, Jean Grangi. And I had no idea what he was doing. I'd heard of capoeira, I'd seen Haitian now, but I'd never seen Angola. I didn't know there was a traditional game, and I didn't understand the African origin of it. So in seeing it, it was just like a whole nother world I'd never imagined. I only understood martial arts from like a competitive idea. I studied Aikido and Taekwondo, kickboxing, and plenty of bruises, broken bones, trips to the hospital, head trauma, things of that nature. And I knew I couldn't continue that for the rest of my life. But with capoeira, I would see people who were 60 and 70 still playing and doing things that I couldn't imagine doing in my 20s. One of the other things, the person who first introduced me to it said it was a healing art. And at the time, I didn't understand what that meant. A martial art that's healing. And I only could think of a martial art as a fight, a way of beating someone. And so with that, I realized that capoeira is more so for me, that the more I do it, the more it benefits me in ways just beyond combat. That's like just a small percentage of the benefit of it. There are just so many other things to gain from it to help me in my day-to-day life.
What an interesting piece. Here in the studio, we have Frances Ampa. Welcome to Student Exposure.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. That was a really interesting story. So what other aspects or elements or kind of the history of capoeira make it so unique and interesting?
Well, capoeira started from Africa through the slave trade to Brazil. So while the slaves learned to preserve themselves and defend themselves from the slave masters, they started practicing capoeira. But when it started being discovered and, shall I say, restricted, they incorporated music and dance to it. So over the years, the tradition of the martial art, music, and dance is still being practiced today.
So kind of touching more a little bit on the uniqueness of capoeira, what are some other elements that you can tell us about the art of capoeira to share with the audience?
Well, people that practice capoeira often say that it's a very spiritual practice. It's very fluid. As you can see, the movements stay very close to the ground.
Right.
So they stay very in tune and very one with themselves and their opponent.
I feel I'm not very coordinated, so I feel like if I was doing that with someone, I would like whack someone in the head. So did you learn any like basic moves on how to kind of begin the art of capoeira to kind of avoid that?
Right. So the Jenga is one that was explained where it went back and forth and side to side. So I think what makes it very interesting is it's between you and your opponent, so everything else doesn't matter. So I think balance comes naturally where you just...
You can feel it out.
Yeah, you just stay low to the ground and just avoid the other person's leg, really.
Okay. I feel like I could do that, and I think our viewers could probably manage to master that as well, too.
Yes, it doesn't matter how old or how young you are, it's for
everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was
Thanks
a great
for
story.
me.
No problem.
All right.
The art of war comes in many forms, and today we have learned about the significance of capoeira. This Brazilian martial art was developed by African descendants as a means of protection and self-preservation during slavery. Currently, there are different forms and techniques of capoeira that are practiced worldwide. Coming up next, women's self-defense in DC.